Good evening. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for being here. I'd like to call this public hearing for the Indiana County Municipal Emergency Services Authority 2026 Service Plan Investing in EMS to order. Some quick housekeeping. The exits at the bottom of the stage to my left and to my right can be used in the event of an emergency, as well as those at the top of the steps behind you. Restrooms are located to the left as you exit the top of the auditorium, just past the steps. Please, if you have any, please show some courtesy and silence all communications equipment unless you are otherwise on duty or on call. Again, thank you all of you for being here and for watching online. Your presence tonight really matters. It shows that communities across Indiana County care about the future of emergency medical services and that we all recognize what's at stake. ICMESA was created because our leaders and our communities needed something stronger, more reliable, and more accountable than what any single municipality or service provider could accomplish alone. Over the past 6 months in my term as ICMESA chair, we as a board have listened to residents, medical experts, worked to build relationships with providers, and studied the data for one purpose: to build a system that protects our people, honors our EMS professionals, and ensures no community is left behind. What we are proposing tonight is something Indiana County has never done before: a coordinated countywide EMS framework with an emphasis on shared standards, shared responsibility, and shared benefits. And while we have answered many of the community's questions, there are still pieces that are evolving, and that's normal for a project where we're blazing a new path at this scale. What I can promise is that we will continue to pursue every remaining answer with transparency and a get-it-done mentality. Before we begin, I'd like to ask everyone to take a deep breath together. There's been a lot of information, and yes, a lot of half-truths and rumors. Let's set those aside. Let them go so we can focus on the real issues and the real solutions. Let us rise as we share a moment of gratitude for the EMTs and paramedics who serve this town every day, and a moment of remembrance for all those lives we've tragically lost over the years. These are the reasons we are here. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we'll begin with a roll call of our Board of Directors, to be followed by a ceremonial roll call of member municipalities so that we can know who we have here today in this room. District 1, August Santini. Here. East Mahoning Township. Marion Center Borough. North Mahoning Township. Plumville Borough. Smicksburg Borough. South Mahoning Township. West Mahoning Township. District 2, Terry Pierce of Banks Township. Canoe Township. Glen Campbell Borough. Grant Township. Montgomery Township. District 3, Sandy Waldenville. Here. Creekside Borough. Ernest Borough. Here. Rain Township. Here. County Representative Mike Keith. Here. District 4, Jeff Gromley, Secretary of ICMESA. Here. Cherry Hill Township. Here. Cherry Tree Borough. Clymer Borough. Here. Green Township. Here. Pine Township. District 5, John Kravetsky, Treasurer of ICMESA. District 6, Danny Sacco, Vice Chairman. Blacklick Township. Here. Blairsville Borough. Burrell Township. Center Township. Here. District 7, Nick Brillhart. Here. Armagh Borough. Brush Valley Township. Here. East Wheatfield Township. West Wheatfield Township. And District 8, Jonathan Smith, Chairman of ICMESA, present. Indiana Borough. So tonight's hearing, we're going to cover four main components: a welcome and a roll call. We've already accomplished that. We're almost done, guys. Next, we're going to introduce the purpose of this hearing, a little bit about ICMESA's foundation. We'll be presenting a full presentation of our service plan and our fee structure, to be followed by a public comment period, where we will ask to hear first from member municipalities, and then, time permitting, hear from other commenters as well. We aren't here by chance, so to start us off, let us welcome our Indiana County Delegate, Indiana County Commissioner Mike Keith.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I stand before you not as a county commissioner or a politician, but as a resident of Indiana County tonight. 3 years ago, Indiana County embarked on a bold and necessary journey to build and sustain a municipal emergency services authority that would secure the future for emergency services for our communities. By statute, each of the 38 municipalities must provide ambulance and fire services. Yet, sustaining these services has grown increasingly difficult. This authority was designed as a solution, one that not only maintains current care, but builds a stronger system for tomorrow. Our mission has been clear from the start: to provide a quality service at an affordable price to the residents of Indiana County. Achieving this has been anything but easy. The process has demanded collaboration, persistence, and the willing to overcome hurdle after hurdle. But through it all, our commitment has never wavered. This authority is more than a structure. It is an investment in better care, modern equipment, advanced training, and future careers of dedicated providers who serve us. Indiana County has committed financial support to sustain ambulance providers and develop this authority on behalf of both residents and municipal governments. Our hope and our firm goal is that every resident of Indiana County will benefit from this endeavor. Together, we are building not just a system of emergency services, but a promise that care will be there when needed most, today and for generations to come. To all the municipal government leaders, I appreciate your efforts, your cooperation, and your patience in this process on behalf of your residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Keith. Vice Chair Danny Sacco will now walk us through ICMESA formation, values, and governance.
Good evening. I too would like to welcome everyone here and thank you for coming out on this wintry night. Thank you for being here. This is an important meeting. Why ICMESA was created. Our county's EMS providers are facing serious, long-standing challenges. They include declining household subscription revenue, persistent revenue shortfalls, rising operating costs, recruiting and retaining trained EMTs and paramedics, and difficulties serving rural and remote areas with limited resources. These are not issues that providers can solve alone. Municipalities recognized that a collaborative countywide approach was necessary to stabilize and sustain EMS services. That is why Indiana County Municipal Emergency Services Authority was created. The authority is guided by 5 core values. Got a little out of whack here, and I apologize. The 5 core values the authority is guided by is equity, transparency, collaboration, accountability, and innovation. I guess we're going backwards instead of forwards. There we go. These values shape every decision the authority makes. Membership. There are 29 member municipalities out of 38 municipalities total in the county. Each municipality voluntarily chose to join because they recognized that EMS sustainability is a regional responsibility. Despite changes in membership, the authority still maintains broad geographic coverage and the ability to operate efficiently. The board of directors includes 1 representative from each district, plus county representative. These individuals are shown here on the slide and are deeply committed to serving their communities. We work hard at being accessible, accountable, and focused on ensuring that decisions reflect the needs of residents and providers. If you haven't been attending our district meetings, we encourage you to do so. We also meet bi-weekly. Our meetings are open to the public. You can attend in person or via Zoom link featured at the top of every agenda posted online at ICMESA.pa.gov. Strengthening the system. ICMESA strengthens the EMS system in 5 key ways. Reliable, sustainable funding. Improved negotiation power with insurers for reimbursement rates. Workforce support through programs of recruitment and retention. Expanded training, including community first response programs. Joint planning among providers and municipalities to meet future needs. This is about moving from a crisis response model to a sustainable, forward-looking system. Benefits to residents and businesses. For all residents and businesses in member municipalities, the ICMESA system provides 50% off 911 ambulance bills not fully covered by insurance, no residual balance after insurance pays, 24/7 EMS readiness, a confidence that funding stays local and supports a stronger system. Everyone benefits from a stable, coordinated EMS network. At this point in time, I'd like to introduce our treasurer, John Kravetsky, who will move us forward. John? Oh, this is advancing.
Okay, thanks. Okay, good evening, everybody. Again, like everybody said so far, thank you for coming. I was actually the former director of Lifestat Ambulance. I still am a current paramedic. I've been involved in emergency services now for over 50 years. And basically what we wanted to go over with everybody is ICMESA's intention is to strengthen the providers who are serving the county, who will continue to help serve the county in the following ways. ICMESA's providers must meet certain requirements with having a proof of certified license, and we had gathered information from not only citizens but from the Lifestat financial people, and went through a lot of data from Indiana County 911, Department of Health, and from the Department of Labor to come up with what requirements were going to be needed to not only continue the services we have, but to strengthen what we have and improve the services in the areas that are not completely covered now at this point. Hold on again, this is out of order. apologize here. And what basically is going to happen is the providers are going to basically, once they go through all the criteria with us, they will receive reliable, stable financial support, a stronger position in negotiating with private insurance companies and rates, a structured seat at the table from the member municipalities as far as moving forward of how your tax dollars will be spent moving forward, and this will create a healthier, more sustainable EMS system. And I apologize, these slides aren't exactly in order. So basically, I can read off the paper, just as easy. Okay, basically the way this thing works out, again, this is all complete out. I'll basically just read it to you. The one must be missing. Basically what happens is there's going to be a residential fee for $75 for what's called a household unit. That's an occupied resident throughout the county. The update count of the residential units right now is approximately 21,821 residents, which you can see there on the screen. At $75 a piece will generate $1,636,575. The businesses that are within that area, as you see on the screen, any businesses having 1 to 9 employees will be charged $100 a year, which will generate $109,400. Businesses from 10 to 99 employees will generate $91,200. Employees that have 100 or more will be $500 a year, and the total of that will generate an additional, there's a total of 1,094 firms within the member municipalities, will generate $211,600. Basically, ICMESA's budget, which we do have on there also, and I believe in the package you were given, total budget of $1,848,175, and the way that'll break down is 89% of them come from residential fees, 11% is coming from the commercial fee. Our projected expenses are 87% of that will go to EMS network programs, 9% to a capital reserve, 4% for administrative charges, and this structure reflects a strong commitment to directing the funds towards actual EMS services and operations, not only in the areas currently served, but all the areas who need additional service 24 hours a day to all the residents of the county. The EMS network program will total approximately $1.6 million. It'll be allocated to 94% of that money will go directly to the EMS provider contracts we solicit. 3% will be the administrative service fees. 1% will go to community first response programs. We will have a 1% strategic planning and under 1% spent on network coordination. Administration's total cost budgets will only be approximately $78,000 for professional and personal services. The finance and compliance through the Office of Administration, reporting and transparency, administrative contingencies. This will make a lean model for prioritizing for the frontline services that will serve your municipalities throughout moving forward once we're there. So again, we want to thank you for coming. Jeff Gromley now will further assist you with the rest of the information.
Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you all for coming. So basically, what I'm supposed to do here is, for my presentation, is we're going to do the frequently asked questions. It's been a lot of questions that have been asked, the most probably. So the first one is about insurance. Yes, residents will still pay the annual fee even if they have insurance. Insurance only pays on per call basis and typically covers about half of the cost of service. The annual fee ensures providers can remain financially viable and basically maintain a 24/7 readiness. So we have the renters. A lot of the questions on the renters. The renters will not receive a bill from ICMESA. Under the Pennsylvania Municipality Authorities Act, the fee is billed to property owners only. Property owners then can decide how they pass that cost along, but they will not bill the renters directly. Will ICMESA replace local EMS? No. ICMESA does not replace the local EMS providers. We partner with providers to ensure that they will continue serving their communities. Subscriptions. Residents and businesses will not need to purchase EMS memberships to receive ICMESA's benefits for 911 calls. However, providers may still offer optional memberships for services beyond 911 response. And media and transparency. Yes, ICMESA holds regular public meetings in accordance with the Sunshine Act. Budgets, expenditures, and operational discussions are discussed and approved publicly. Meeting details, videos, and minutes are all available at icmesapa.gov. Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. So ICMESA will begin in 2026, early in 2026, following this hearing. There's a 45-day objection period, and then we will initiate our fee implementation and begin collecting revenues. Over the next few months, up until this point, our board has really been working hard to chart the course for the first year's success, hosting discussions with providers, clinicians, and keeping a focus on how to manage a network of diverse communities and EMS providers. Over the coming months, we will finalize provider partnership agreements, build an administrative system needed for uniform fee collection and financial management, begin implementing and reporting our reporting framework and our transparency strategy, and we'll launch public-facing informational resources and continue to refine our outreach strategies. We will also be kicking off with our partners a long-range strategic planning cycle to determine the opportunities for our network to reduce costs and grow coverage across the county. This timeline ensures that the authority is prepared, transparent, and fully operational when its first funding cycle begins. So we're going to move into our public comment period. We will keep public comment open until 7:45. And as we move into this period, I ask that we all stay respectful. And if you'd like to speak, please follow these guidelines. Say your name, state your full name and municipality. Please keep your remarks short to 3 minutes so that everyone has an opportunity to speak. And we ask you to be respectful and courteous. Again, we would like to provide primacy for our member municipalities to speak first, and then those with additional comments who are not member municipality hold their comments to the end. Do we have any comments? Please raise your hand.
Do you want to select, or you just want me to hand to whoever's first?
I'll trust you guys to police yourselves on member municipalities first. Thank you.
You handle that side over there.
I'm not a municipality member, I'm a resident.
A resident, okay, or do you want?
Yeah, residents, yeah. If you're in a member municipality, please, your questions matter.
Yep, Randy Gressley, I'm from Clymer. Question. You mentioned about the other fees. We pay citizens ambulance fees. Is that going to go away?
I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
I'm currently paying fees to Citizens Ambulance for membership. Is
Yes.
that going to continue?
As a member of, Clymer Borough intends to be a member of ICMESA, so you will no longer need to have a citizens ambulance membership unless you use that membership for services like transportation or pickup or whatever the additional services are. But no, under this authority model, you would receive the cost benefit of membership through ICMESA. Please state your name and municipality. Thanks.
William Burba, Montgomery Township Supervisor. Enlighten these people on how you're going to collect that $75 fee and how much of that 1.6 or 1.8 million you guys actually think you're going to get.
Those are really great questions. Thank you for them. We are working with the tax assessment office and tax collectors and as a committee to establish our final implementation rollout for how those bills will be directed. We anticipate that they will go out with your municipal mail, with your municipal tax. As for how much of that, we do not know. We've accounted for about a 10% delinquency rate, and that's what we can see in our capital reserve fund. And then through our budget, no matter what is going to be collected, we have budgeted 92% of all residential fees to go into our EMS provider contracts.
Follow up. What if you don't pay?
Delinq-
What's the procedure the authority is going to take?
Well, through our current procedure with the authorization of tax collectors to do the collecting for the authority billing through resolution, we would receive a list of those properties that are delinquent, and then we would take on the responsibility as to whether or not we would choose to pursue delinquency. That is something that we have not, as a board, had a decision on, and we plan on bringing it to all of our member municipalities through our district meetings when we come to those decisions.
Hello.
Hi.
All right, my name is Mike Wilson. I live in Douglas Street in Commodore, PA. I'm also Green Township Supervisor. It's my understanding from what I've been being told that you guys cannot go to the tax collectors and have them do the work. It's supposed to be your job to do the work, not our tax collectors to do it. Am I wrong or right?
Through legislative action, a borough or township or any municipality can designate the obligation of a tax collector to collect a fee that is within the statute. So willingly, we have drafted a resolution for each township to execute and an agreement that would designate those responsibilities, as well as issues around cost sharing for both our residential and our commercial fee rollout.
So basically what you're saying is you have no idea right now how you're going to collect it.
No, we do. We have a legally sound strategy through a resolution that is backed by our rights and your rights as municipal
I'm not being ignorant,
authorities.
but I think there's a lawsuit in the future coming. I mean, you got to get more clarify this a little better and get things legal, because I see a lawsuit coming from what I'm being told.
I would love to speak with your solicitor if you have a chance.
Hi, Kathy Stifler, South Mahoning Township over here.
Oh, hi.
One question I have is, you talk about transparency and oversight. How will you control, like, raising costs? Because of it being a municipal service authority, it's not controlled by the PUC or any other, like, oversight, such as the Indiana County or the ICMESA. You know, our water bills, they can be raised randomly with no notification and no approval from PUC versus like the Indiana Borough Water that has to get approval from PUC. So
Right.
Since this is a municipal type authority, what sort of oversight do you have?
That's a really great question. Thank you for asking. So within our bylaws and our articles of incorporation, we are only permitted to raise rates up to 5% per year. And anytime we issue a new service plan or expect to raise rates significantly, it would come back to another hearing like this, and it would be brought back well in advance of that through your delegates to your municipalities to help weigh in on those decisions. So if it does come to a significant cost increase, the municipalities would first and foremost be aware of those decisions, help participate in those decisions, and then we would have a public hearing to decide whether or not this would actually take place. But thank you for that question.
I'm Shelley Pennington. I'm a resident of Canoe Township. My question is, what all ambulance services is going to be part of this?
Oh, that's a great question as well. Thank you for that. So we've created an RFP that would go out to all of the EMS providers who have responded to calls within Indiana County. That's 13 different ambulance services according to 911's roster of call ordering. So we will be communicating with them, and we will give them a proportional amount of money from what we raise to help them shore up their services and protect Indiana County continuing on.
So Jefferson EMS is going to be part of...
Absolutely.
And I have another question. What ramifications would take place if an ambulance service were to refuse to respond when they were called?
That's a really complicated question, and we thought about how ICMESA functions, and we've kind of envisioned this collaborative network approach where we would have forums and regular communications with all of our EMS providers so that we would be aware of what the barriers are in those situations, and we would know the right people to talk to get the best answers for the community when they have them.
Hi there. Jameson Hughes from Indiana Borough. So, on the topic of the RFP, are you stating that all 13 services are automatically part of the authority? Or are they have to accept their role inside the authority based on their RFP?
So they would continue to provide coverage if they were the first available resource, but to be a member of ICMESA, they would have to agree to the terms of the RFP and be willing to participate. Yes.
So those services, we'll say Jefferson EMS just for an example, if they choose not to be, but they are under 911 systems, a mutual aid contract, that would still take place, and then that non-member service would bill maybe the ICM resident their full amount. For billing.
For billing. Under our formation of our RFP contracts, we would be designating the responsibility of billing to EMS providers. I would maintain that they would bill directly to the citizens, but our legal counsel might be able to answer that question better than me. Did you hear it? Okay.
Over here, sir.
Yes. A couple of things. One is as it was indicated, the people who are not, or the municipalities not participating in this, and the municipalities that are participating in it, you're still able to pay for memberships in the participating ambulances. And then number two, to go to your question, is that as you recall, this is providing emergency service based on 911 dispatch. So if you're in the participating municipality, obviously you get the participation of the authority covering a portion of those bills, and it's been outlined what portions would be paid.
But if a non-member organization, EMS organization, is the one running that call, how do you regulate that fact that they're going to bill at whatever rate? And
yeah.
is the authority going to just take that bill from them then and from the resident and pay that?
Well, to answer your question, remember the authority knows or will be paying for what it's contributing. Right now, there's no contribution coming from anybody to fill that void. And that's really what the authorities coming in to try to supplement that type of funding. And think of it this way, right now, this is to provide incentives to provide a more resilient, quicker response to the areas that aren't getting it right now. If you're in a non-authority municipality and you're fine with the service you have, that's your choice. That's the municipality's choice. And for those the municipalities that then want to become part of the authority, you're going to get call it supplemental incentives based on the RFPs for services to come in and provide that. How that works out with Medicaid and Medicare, if that ambulance service can continue to bill, hey, go for it. Remember, this is to supplement service in the areas that now you're going to wait for, 15, 20 minutes for a ALS response. It's way too long. So this is to put incentives in the system, not to change it all that much. That's the way, at least it's designed. And we'll see. I mean, the resilience of this authority will address some of the peripheral things and maybe even assist in getting those bills routed the right place and get better funding. So, and we're also hoping to have technological input on assisting with the billing process and maybe even find a more unified, efficient way to get it done for everybody. So any ambulance service that's on the RFP and they're participating, we're all going to be rowing in the same direction. How do we get significant ALS services in the areas quicker? And then the answer to the other question about what happens if you get a call from an ambulance service because the ambulance services that were going to be in that area, they don't want to go. Other counties have had those problems where if you have an ambulance license and you get the call from dispatch, and then you don't have the ability to say, I'm not going. I mean, you can say we're staffless because we're on 3 other runs, but that's a Pennsylvania Department of Health problem. Hope that gave you the round out of that. Sorry.
I think I'd just add to that and say that also ICMESA is not an EMS service provider. We are collecting a fee to distribute it to EMS service providers to fund readiness, to make sure that they have the ambulances, the staff, and all the equipment and people that they need to make sure that our communities are safer.
Jim Holliday, Center Township. $1.8 million for a county this size doesn't sound like a lot of money when I consider the problem that I see. This year, my family has been told no ambulances available. You got to drive yourself to the hospital. They've dispatched EMS people to the house to see if it's really needed. Okay, that's today. Can you say a little bit about the mechanism that insinuating this money into the existing 11 services will make it more available to remote areas or to older people? Is it a function of more ambulances, more people? Because obviously insurance is going to pay the bulk of it, and I don't understand what this little bit of money over this area is going to do to get an ambulance when you call now.
Yes. I think most people in this room can agree that the number is probably not enough to reach a full countywide system today. What this money does do is it can go a long way towards stabilizing the system today, and then through partnerships and investigating ways of cost reductions, we can see better growth and recuperate more of those cost benefits that only partnership can achieve. But yes, we are really dedicated to pursuing a long-term growth strategy and printing out a strategic plan with our partners, because today is not enough and we're going to need even more tomorrow.
Hello, Stacy Long. I'm from Grant Township, District 2. I would like to go back a little bit to the tax fee issue we had. You had mentioned that a resolution would be coming to the municipality to sign, and I'm assuming that deals with the municipality would be authorizing its tax collector to collect the fee. I wanted to know if that resolution has been drafted yet, and when and if we would get to see the language prior to a public meeting.
Soon, hopefully. It has been drafted. It's been vetted by a couple of different attorneys. We're currently in conversations with both the county tax assessment office and our own legal counsels to figure that out so that we can get that to you shortly after following this meeting.
Okay, because there is a lot of concern amongst the municipal tax collectors about all of this. And these people work very hard for not a lot of money. Correct. And it's very important to keep them happy. And as a municipal representative, I'm very interested in making sure everyone is happy as well as safe and healthy. So,
well, thank you for that.
Very anxious to see that resolution and very anxious to keep tax collectors.
Yeah, please
happy.
stop by one of your district representatives or myself, and we will be able to correspond with you directly. Yeah, no problem.
Have you, Chris Cheehey from Banks Township, have you received any commitment from the existing EMS providers to add additional satellite stations and to increase staffing and equipment? Because out in our neck of the woods, our local ambulance station moved another 8 miles down the road further away from the center of their service area, and there's been days where there has not been an ambulance in that hall for 8 hours at a time.
Right. This is the biggest challenge in Indiana County. There's a vast region where service has either decreased or has never been there to begin with. And we really are trying through ICMESA to bring everyone to the table so we can have the type of discussions or, okay, so where should things be, or maybe what model should we go with that will provide the most amount of coverage in Indiana County for the least amount of cost. And those are conversations we can only have with providers, probably multiple of them at a time.
Tony Greenwald, Indiana Borough. In my travels around the county, and people I've known, they ask the same question I do. So you have people on fixed income or retirement, and you're telling us as living in our homes, we got to pay $75 more. But yet right down the road, you got renters or students, and they don't have to pay anything? Where is a retired person on a fixed income or minimal retirement fund coming up with that, with the increase of all the utilities, and in some boroughs, other increase in taxes? Where are they going to get that money?
Yes, we definitely sympathize with the cost of the ICMESA fee. We thought long and hard about what was an acceptable fee, what was appropriate, and what people could actually afford, because there is an uneven circumstance economically across this county, significantly uneven. But I will say that through our fee collection process, it is charged per residential unit. So it's not that students are not paying anything at all. If they're in student housing or if they're in apartments, their apartment rent will probably be adjusted to reflect the landowner or property owner, whoever owns that housing unit's preference towards charging them as opposed to themselves.
Matt Lee, Cherry Hill Township. I'm up here, bud. I like to be clear.
There you are.
Yeah. So, a spin-off of that gentleman over there. Sorry. Spin-off of that gentleman over there. So, you have people that own, or I should say the bank might own, multiple properties in all of these boroughs and municipalities. So, you're not going to charge the renters, but you expect the property owners, or I should say the taxpayer of the property, to then come up with a way to pay for that at each one of those properties. And the point is, we can't just keep going and raising our rents, because we're going to end up with a bunch of empty units that's nobody's going to rent.
Yeah.
I sympathize with everybody in this room, because this whole nation is under stress right now, and people are fighting to put food on the table. So this couldn't have come at a worse time. I can just tell you that right now. So with that being said, the other thing is, as a private owner of multiple properties in 2 different municipalities, which I've had a conversation with the woman in the other one that I own property in. It's just a camp, but there's property to it. And we've all been down this road before. So what is your stipulation on calling it a unit? Because there's actually not a structure on the property, but it's property. So am I going to be hit twice? Once for where I live and then once for my camp?
No, this fee is only assessed on properties with dwelling units, classified dwelling units or housing units. And it will be however it is passed on from those owners to possible renters. It is, I think about it a lot, right? I rent my apartment. So it's about, $6.95, I think on the slide it said, per month, that I can probably expect my rent to increase $10 per month, which it usually does every year.
How you doing? James Domino. I live in White Township, but I have rentals under some of these. So how is that going to affect it? I'll be paying for this, But since I don't live under this umbrella, will I get credit for it?
Well, you will pay for all the housing units, including the one you live in, if you own that unit as well.
Well, but it doesn't fall under this umbrella where I actually live, but I'll have to pay.
Well, then you will need to provide, you will need to pay that for the housing units that you own in a member municipality.
Okay, but will I be covered under this since I don't live?
He lives in White Township. You will be covered under your own White Township agreement because you live in White Township.
Okay.
These gentlemen over here have a good point. And like I said, have you looked at all the more somebody on Social Security is going to be getting an increase next year? Between utilities and what you're saying, forget that. Some of these people are further ahead just letting the house go and going on welfare and living in public housing is what you're saying.
I sympathize with those statements, and the only alternative is marginally, it's $10, I guess, if you would wish to move to White Township or one of the non-member municipalities.
My name is George Pavlowski. I'm from Clymer, Pennsylvania. I just want to ask everybody in this room, I'm going to ask you a couple questions as well, sir.
Thanks.
Raise your hand if you have a loved one that you very much care about that you wish nothing ever would happen to. Raise it. Okay. Raise your hand if you're okay with waiting for an EMS provider to get there 25 minutes. Raise your hand if you're okay with that. Well, that's what's happening right now. Whether you like it or not, that's what's happening right now. And it's nothing against citizens. It's nothing against them at all. But what I have to say is right now, the reason why this is getting started from what I'm gathering is to help this county. I would pay $150 a year to make sure that I get the best care from my medical provider. Way that I know that I'm not going to wait 25 minutes for an ambulance. And I'm not making that number up. I know people that's waited 40 minutes for an ambulance. That's because they don't have the coverage to cover the area. They don't have the money to be able to cover different ambulances around the area. Right now, they have transports going all over the county, and yet somebody's needing that ambulance, and they can't get to them, so they're calling in another ambulance service to help cover that's going to take them another half hour on top of that. So my questions here for you, sir, is right now what you're trying to do is provide this county with faster service, correct?
We're trying to provide the support to EMS providers so that they can have stronger workforce and get to where they need to be faster, yes.
And right now, you're trying to make it to where it's going to be beneficial to work at the providing ambulance service with better pay, correct?
We hope that through our partnerships we can come to agreements and provide best practices so that EMS providers can excel and their workforce can feel secure and safe just like we do in our communities for their service.
And again, nothing against citizens, but if you look at their rates compared to other rates, what they pay, it's bare minimum. We just saw that Medic 1 down south come in, what their pay is. They put out what they're paying EMTs, what they're paying medics. It's nowhere near what they're paying. I'd rather have somebody that's going to be there for a while. And I've seen throughout citizens too, or whoever it might be, the rollover of employment. So now you're getting people straight out of school, fresh newbies, fresh people coming through, don't know what they're doing, they're kind of scared. I'd rather have somebody that's getting paid good, that's going to stay at that service for a while, that's going to know what they're doing because they have years of experience and they want to stay there. And that's what you guys are trying to do, correct?
I mean, we are genuinely concerned with the type of wage war that might be escalating currently, as well as the turf wars. We want through ICMESA for our EMS providers to be able to sit down across from the table and figure out what's the best thing that we can do as a region for our workforce, whether that's coming together to provide better training or coming up with new and innovative ways to share workforce and staff. We need to find those solutions, and we need to make sure that everyone is paying a good wage so that they stay in Indiana County, because I don't know about you, but I think everyone in this room agrees that Indiana County is a pretty great place to live.
Well, and I lived all around the state. I'll be truthful with you. I've been all around. This is the first time that I've seen a county concerned about their citizens to be able to put something like this together. I understand that you're not the authority to give the medical service. You're just trying to help the medical provider out, correct?
Correct.
So with that being said, it's a no-brainer. I know everybody is worried about the $75 fee. But if it's my kids laying there that just got hit by a car, and I get faster service 6 to 10 minutes compared to 20 to 30 minutes, I'd pay that price. There's no life out there that's worth any price. I mean, I can't wrap my mind around the fact that people, nothing against y'all, my belief, is worried about paying $75 to get better health service. I do appreciate what you guys are doing, and I thank you for answering my questions.
Yeah.
The last thing I do have for you is everybody that lives in a rural area.
There may still be people who yet to talk, and we only have a very
last
limited
thing
amount
for
of
you.
time. Okay.
Those that live in the rural area who wait even longer and don't have an ambulance service provider, your main goal down the road, because we all know this is just starting, it isn't going to snap of a finger. The main goal is to provide the whole county with better service, more ambulance, better staff, and maybe a couple more ambulance stations around the county, correct?
I mean, we want to make sure that our network is strong and we have the best service that we can possibly provide.
Thank you.
We have time for just a few more. It's 7. It's pretty late. Oh, it's only 8. We have lots of time. Sorry, I forgot.
Jim Hopkins from Green Township in the middle. I just have a question about the 13 service providers. So I'm first responder on the front lines in some cases, and I know that some cases we're getting ambulance provider 2 or 3 services away because the closer ones are not available. So those providers don't have any primary coverage area within ICMESA. So are they going to get a cut of the pie, or are they just going to be given some support based on calls they need to come to because ICMESA member organizations are not available?
Man, we put equity and being fair at the front of everything we do. So any EMS provider who has a record of coming into a member municipality will have their opportunity to participate in our RFP process and have their proportional amount of those funds at the end of the day. It's not easy out there for any EMS provider, and we recognize that, and we want to appreciate them for taking care of our county.
Well, and I certainly understand that, but it's going to be a struggle to use the limited funds to make services better to our direct people from the service providers here if we're sending money to Black Lake Valley and Hastings, or in Nantiglow, for example, because they've made 2 calls in Strongstown because citizens and veterans were tied up. So I understand supporting them, but in my opinion, the ones that don't have primary area should only be given a rated amount based on the calls they come to, maybe a very small portion for being a member, but just because you came here 5 times last year doesn't mean you come 5 next year. So I think you should get a stipend essentially, like, hey, you came to this call because we weren't available, here's your $500 or whatever, as opposed to, hey, we have $2 million, here's a cut of the pie because you've been here before.
I really appreciate that question, and it's worth considering maybe as we move forward into our next strategic planning process. But for right now, we're really looking to provide some support financially for everyone to get them all at the table so that we can come up with opportunities for cost reductions. There is really this thing about scale and ways of doing bulk purchasing, or maybe unique ways of looking at payments and fleet insurance that, no one's ever tried before, because this has never been done before. And we want everybody at that table so that we can talk about it together.
Hi, my name is Malia Parasagisi, and I am from Black Lake Township. And I have a question. Actually, I have 2. First question is, and you may have answered this already, is the fee going to be added to the tax bill, or is it a separate bill that will come out from the tax office?
No, it will not be on the tax bill. It is a fee. It is separate. We are working with the tax assessment office and trying to figure out how we can get those all to go out at the same time.
Right, so there'll be some admin work behind having two bills going out, correct?
There's a significant amount of legwork between now and February to be done.
Right. And so to have kind of a by question on this rural setting, a lot of times you have life flight. How is that going to be somehow rolled into this, or is it not, especially when you have to have a landing zone in a rural area? Is that even a consideration on the table?
No, it is not something that we are doing in our service plan for 2026. It may be an area that maybe we need to expand in, but right now that is seen as an extreme supplemental emergency process that is regrettable, but not something that we are handling right now. Right. Thank you for giving me a new note on my network process for next year. Super excited.
It was just brought to my attention by another person in the same situation as myself and my neighbors. You know, that young man has good points over there, okay? But he's young and he's probably working in a half-decent job. But what about people retired? I'm on a fixed income, and that's $75 plus the recent bills I got from utilities. And I have 2 part-time jobs. I may need another one just to keep the roof over my head. Actually, I might be further ahead, selling the house or getting rid of it to move into public housing. You know, that's a reality in this county and everywhere.
I really appreciate this attention. I mean, at the top of my mind, I am a councilman for Indiana Borough, and I think about that lower 50% every day in my elected and professional life. The only alternative right now is for this to end up going on a tax roll. So one way or the other, most municipalities in this county have said, yes, we are going to fund EMS in some way. Some of it's through tax. A lot of it, most of it is coming to ICMESA. So one way, I'm sorry, everyone is going to be impacted by this need to preserve emergency services in Indiana County.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Vancic. I'm from Center Township. Things could be a lot worse, actually, if you stop and think about it. I've been seeing on the TV where Allegheny County, their ambulances are breaking down. They can't repair them because they don't have the money, and they certainly can't buy new ones. So we're very fortunate that what we have here is great. This may all be a Band-Aid effect of the $75. I've been a Citizens Ambulance member for I don't know how many years. I'm on Medicare. I also have a private insurance. But when my husband fell over in the kitchen, it was a $600 ambulance ride to the hospital. And my insurance, neither Medicare nor my regular insurance, covered the other half of it. So I had $300 to pay, which of course, you know, I mean, you've got to have it. You're grateful for it. But I'm beginning to think this might all be a Band-Aid situation. That we're trying to fix it right now. And you know, Band-Aids do come off and they're worthless after that. I'm thinking because nationally, the Senate and the House of Representatives are fussing around about insurance, health insurance. And maybe this is the time that we ought to put some pressure on our representatives, our congressmen and senators, to maybe make this a part, not only for Indiana County, but for the nation. Make it a part of the insurance costs that you get ambulance service coverage. And frankly, I'm not crying for any insurance company because I don't have the gazillion of dollars in my back pocket that they all seem to have to be able to buy sports stadiums, millions and millions of dollars. I don't have 1,000+% enhancement on myself as the insurance companies have had during the past 5 years. 1,000% increase in their valuation. That's an awful lot. And maybe, like I said, maybe this is a time we ought to notify our representatives and our senators that this is another part of what can be done to help everybody everywhere with these insurance costs and with, of course, subsidy or auxiliary costs like ambulance services. Thank you.
Yep, thank you for your comment. And I will add that there's been some pretty impressive leadership from Senator Pittman and Representative Joe Struzzi in this area and in rural health in general.
Steve DeHaven, South Mahoning Township. A couple things. First, a little clarification. I've heard that the $75 is going to be based off of occupied households, and then another time it said residential units. Could you give me clarification on that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
It's been said that $75 is going to be charged at one point to occupied households, then another point somebody said residential units. So is it going to be based off occupied or?
No, occupancy is not a requirement at this time. So it's just housing unit, anything that's designated as a housing unit.
Okay. The next one is going back to the tax collector, the resolution you have, what is the percentage going to be paid to the tax collector for collecting these fees? Is that left up to the municipality or is that?
Well, because the fee is a flat rate across the county, we are going to make an expectation that the compensation for tax collectors would remain at a flat rate so that everything is fair and equitable. That is our driving force.
Okay, so is that fee coming out of ICMESA or is that at the municipality level to pay?
It would come off the top of the fee.
Okay, all right.
My best friend.
I'm back. Can you hear me, Jonathan?
I can hear you.
Okay, when this
I'm ready.
thing first started, back 3 years ago, they said it's for emergency medical services
Into your mic. Can you talk?
only.
Just lift it to your closer to your mouth.
For emergency medical services only. And the question that asked at that time about transports. Because right now at the northern end of the county, they'll pull an ambulance out up there and send it on a transport from Indiana to Pittsburgh, and we're on our own. Now, when they first started this, they said they would not be doing that. It would be for emergency medical services only. How would the authority enforce that on the ambulance services?
Well, the authority is primarily focused on taking a network approach to solving problems. So we have started relationships with our EMS providers as well as our institutions like IRMC, and there is a definite recognition that transport from ambulances is a problem that needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed urgently.
Yeah, because that's what we're not paying for a transport service.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I would say that it's an active conversation that we hope as ICMESA to be able to fight for our municipal members and be at that table advocating for the best possible solution.
All right, on the business end of it, I asked the question at your meeting. Did you guys do any movement on that as far as, I'm a one-man operation. I have my business address the same as my home address. And I'm on the road all the time, and I'm going to be charged an additional $100 for the same spot.
Well, if you are a sole owner operator, there will be a mechanism to opt out of that fee, right? So our counting of full-time employees starts at 1. not zero. So if you're like an owner operator working out of your own house, or if you have a home business and you operate out of your house, you would not need to pay duly or doubly for your membership.
Jim Stifler, South Boating Township. I'm usually not very political, but when things start to cost me money, I try to get a little bit involved. Anyway, as far as the fees are involved, I see an overlap. In other words, with the employers, I have quite a few rentals, and this is going to cost me a lot more than $75. But in that respect, we've got an employer paying for X amount of dollars. I'm going to be paying X amount of dollars. As the payer of this fee, if one of my tenants has to go use a responder to come pick them up, who's going to pay that overage? Are you going to bill me? Are you going to bill the patient?
No, so the process of EMS provider service delivery will be maintained by those providers. We have the authority to pass on to EMS providers under our contract to do that work and to continue things as they are. We really, as ICMESA, want to touch that process of fee payment, service payment as little as possible. Because providers do it best, they do it already. We don't want to mess with something that's not broken. We want to fix the things that are.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Not really, but...
Okay, what's the part that didn't get answered?
Okay. The other question is, I never really saw anything about this municipal service until it started showing up on the front page of the newspaper. I don't go to township meetings unless I hear of something that's necessary. No one ever informed me that anything was like this taking place. And it seems like every time there's a municipal authority created, there's appears to be no oversight, no boss, other than the people who run it. I've seen that with the municipal service. I would call the county, talk to the commissioners. Well, we don't have an oversight over that. We can't do anything about that. You call the the PUC, well, they're a municipal authority. We can't control that. What are you going to tell me that can make me feel better about not having the cost go up by, threefold in the next 10 years or 5 years?
Well, our model, I'll address the last part first and then the second part. Let me just write down what it is. All right, so that last part about fee escalation, I guess, or an increase in fees, we are bound by our articles of incorporation. We are not allowed to increase a fee more than 5%. So right now, that's like about $3 that we could raise the fee if we wanted to without having another one of these. But also, another key part of that is we are a municipal-led model. So every delegate that we have up here on our board, with the exception of our county representative who's appointed by the commissioners, was authorized to represent their municipality cluster through municipal action. So your municipal leaders have a direct impact on the composition of this board. They have direct channels to every decision that is made. Our delegates do hold regular meetings and they pass on that information to the boards that they represent. So that is how our model is different from any type of municipal authority that doesn't have a delegation model. They are generally, yes, less oversight. But you have the ability to elect your officials and the ability to engage with your officials, and you have the ability to engage with our delegates and myself personally through our website and through our contacts.
I would have appreciated if the officials would have informed me of this and asked for my vote if I wanted to take part of it. And I understand the ambulance service. I work in healthcare, or I used to work in healthcare. And there's a reasonable customary fee that the insurance companies will pay. When you exceed that, you don't get paid for that part. As far as, waiting for an ambulance, I've seen it. Yeah. I've seen it more than once.
Yeah.
I held my grandfather till he died.
I'm sorry for that.
But, the ambulance station was 2 miles away. I hope this would do better.
We do as well.
She's coming.
One question has come to my mind. Say if Joe Schmo owns this company here in Homer City and he's got 10 employees, you're still going to charge that guy this same amount of money even though his employees live right here in this town, so they're getting double dipped. Is that possible?
Not if he lives in Homer City, because Homer City is not a member municipality.
Well, you know what I'm saying.
If he lives in Center Township, yeah, so traditionally EMS was really subsidized by our commercial and heavy industries. Since our composition of our economic composition has changed to more smaller businesses, that model hasn't been working for our EMS providers anymore. So we have to come up with a solution, and the only way to do that fairly is to come up with a model that maybe isn't great and doesn't have all the answers right now, but it does disperse the ability for ICMESA to collect some funds in a fair way and transparently.
So it always going to come down to that employee getting double dipped. Because, you know, the employer is going to pass that down to the employer, or to the employer is going to pass it down to the employee, and that employee might already be paying his $75 for that year, so therefore he's paying $150.
You're explaining pretty clearly what happens in capitalism, and I can't change that system.
Well, apparently you didn't explain it clear enough, because I don't understand it.
Any more? Thought I was going to get to go home early.
My name's Carl Filler. I live in Center Township. And my question is, I had an aunt that lived by herself who recently passed away, and that house is empty now. If there is a bill sent to her, who do I need to contact to let them know that the house is not empty and there's nobody in that house now while it's up for sale?
As the property owner with a dwelling unit, you would still be responsible for that fee.
With nobody in it? If nobody lives in the house?
You know, even if it was a tax, then it would still be passed on to the property owner, and you would have to pay it even while you're waiting for sale. So, well, that's just, I'm sorry, but that is the way the bill is going to happen.
Okay.
My question is, what happens to the municipalities that, if they opt out of this, what would happen with emergency services in that township?
The biggest impact would be their ability to help shape the EMS service provisions moving forward for their municipality. According to Pennsylvania state statute, they have an obligation to provide provisions of EMS services, whether they do that financially through a contribution or not. But as a member of ICMESA, you are joining a larger voice when it comes to sitting down at the table with EMS providers, so that we can ensure that the money is going to EMS service providers, and that they're preparing to serve the communities in a way that is fair and promotes readiness and safety.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jesse Schatz, supervisor with Washington Township. Just a quick comment. Would this presentation be available to get emailed to us? And if any additional questions, we can contact our district representative.
Yeah, so our handout is already posted on icmesapa.gov. The slide presentation will also be available on icmesapa.gov. We do keep an archive of all of our public meetings, and we look forward to engaging with you further. Right now, the only contact access is through the icmesapa.gov contact portal.
Yeah, I was just asking because the presentation didn't necessarily match the handout as far as the information. That's why I wanted to make sure that was available.
Yeah, there may be some language differences, but
okay. And one of the issues I don't know if you touched on in any of this is we do have the development of QRSs in this county, and right now they're serving under citizens. They're kind of like a subsidiary as how they're practicing. Is the authority going to have any role? I understand that you're wanting to provide that support to the EMS service, but will any support trickle down to the QRS, because that is a feeding mechanism for getting younger people and other people involved in this profession to feed the staffing issues for these ambulance services?
That's a really good point and a really good service that's provided by fellow members in your communities. That QRS system is amazing. That it would be an eligible point for a program through our funding for EMS service providers, and we really hope that through our network engagement process and our strategic planning that we focus in specifically on how QRS services can be strengthened. I think there's really unique and cool things that we could do to better coordinate those through 911 or I think there's ideas out there that we need to sit down with our EMS providers, because that is how it's currently run. They have contracts separate with all the EMS providers. And there's an opportunity there for us to sit down and talk about how we can organize and structure that better so that they are faster and more prepared, and we know where they are when they're needed.
Yes, and speaking to some of the municipal leaders here, that's really helped us out in our municipality as far as response time and coverage and it's been said a couple of times as far as response time from an actual ambulance, but our QRS is responding in literally single-digit minute times. Yeah. Now, Citizens is using that response time, which is all well and good, but time saves lives, and that QRS gets there. So if you're able to reach out to your departments, your fire departments that service you, and start that conversation on starting a QRS, I guarantee you'll start to see a difference. We have, and it has saved lives.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I would also add that we are very focused on finding these ways of doing community first response. It's one of our tenets. It's one of the things that we have funded within our budget. Right now we're looking at providing AEDs and training for the housing of those AEDs in these remote communities, because cardiac arrest is #1 calls for emergency services. So we need to figure out how to get those technologies, working technologies and trained individuals into rural communities to stop those.
Hey, my name's Jim Rattay. I live out in Dixonville. Just had a real quick question, because I get the purpose of all this, and I don't have a problem with that, but say, is there a sunset period on a trial run or anything, and if you don't see any improvements, or is it just once it's set in stone, it's set in stone?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Well, if there's no improvement, say in 3 years, there's no improvement in response times, there's no improvement in the amount of ambulances, the amount of staff and everything, with the transparency you guys want to have and everything, I'm just curious on if there is an expectation for improvement, and if it's just going to be there's no improvement, still going to be doing the same thing, or if say the authority shows no signs of improvement with the EMS, like is there a trial period to see if there's a positive effect for the people's money?
Yes. Yes. The goal is to make sure that we are measuring our performance and communicating how we are performing together. But I would also add that no one, not a municipal leader, not an EMS provider, not any member of ICMESA board, does not wholeheartedly want to see improvements in this system. Across the board, everybody is going to work as hard as they can with the funds that they have to do better and be better. I have no doubt in that. But we will measure that and communicate it effectively.
Alrighty.
Gentleman down here. You can just yell if you want.
Kevin Lucas, Banks Township Supervisor. I know I'm going to get asked a question probably by somebody, and they're going to say, well, I'm not going to pay the fee. What happens? So what do I tell them?
You can tell them, don't do that.
Well, naturally, I'm going to encourage them to pay the fee. You should tell them
to pay their fee, because everybody needs emergency services. this is a decision that we have yet to make as a board, and we will make that in combination with our municipal leaders and our delegates.
So essentially, you don't have all that worked out yet.
Well, we don't necessarily have an authorization to collect a fee, let alone, figure out how we're going or what we're going to do with delinquency. But don't tell people that. Pay your fee.
I guess. It's on. They're on. They're all the way on. Just put it close. Just put it close up. It's on. The magic silent button's up there. I can go.
I don't know if it's a question or a statement. When this authority was originally to be formed, the authority was supposed to send out the bills. The authority was supposed to have a person to collect the money, and you guys are doing to disperse it on our behalf. Why now we're getting close to the end? This is a good idea. The ambulances do need money. But my opinion is right now, there's too many unanswered questions what we're getting into. And I'm thinking we need to take a step back, regroup, get our billing in line on who's going to collect it, what you guys are supposed to be doing instead of our tax collectors. Now we're getting papers that are saying, well, the townships are going to be responsible for paying for printing and postage and stuff, and this isn't the way this is supposed to work. Or am I wrong?
I mean, we've worked really hard to come to the service plan and the fee structure that we have today. We have encountered a lot of uncertainty, and there's a lot of things that have never been done before. There's a lot of municipalities that don't even necessarily know all the addresses to send out those mails, right? So we had to come up with a VOIP process.
Not to interrupt you, Jonathan, but isn't that your solicitor's job to point you guys in the right direction? If he's an authority on authorities,
yeah,
he should be telling you guys, wait a minute, you can't be doing this. You better get this done. And it seems like, I know the ambulances need money, but I think you guys are rushing us down our throats here right at the last quarter of the race here, and a lot of people aren't liking it. As far as the $75, pay it. I said that before when we was here. I said if everybody would pay for a membership, we wouldn't even have this conversation.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Okay.
All done?
I think it's, unless there's anyone I'm not seeing. Okay.
Well, that's surprising. So thank you, everyone, for being here tonight and for your engagement in this process. You can find, again, all the meeting minutes, documents, updates, and additional information on icmesa.pa.gov. We will now end this comment period. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? All those in favor? Motion adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a safe night.